means...
Brother. Brother.
What?
Brother, I feel it. I heard a voice.
Not again.
Someone is coming. Today is the day.
It has been decades since we last saw daylight. You need to...
What? Oh my, it's happening. Could it be? Could it really be? Yes, yes, yes. We shall see the light of day again, bro.
Holy crap.
That intro was a dramatization of the moment I pulled these beauties out of an old box of LEGO prototypes. But what are they exactly? In this video, I will go into detail about what they are, where they came from, and what secrets they hide. Welcome to Clive's Corner and the first episode of Prototime. The very short and straightforward answer would be that they are prototypes of set 8537 Nui-Rama. But that is a really boring answer and far from tells the full story of this set. The produced set was released in the first year of the Bionicle line in 2001. After the initial success of the Taomata, the Nui-Rama arrived in the wave of the Rahi to give the Taomata some creatures to fight. We did see a few prototypes appear in magazines and similar media before 2001. Perhaps the most famous one is the Sand Tarakawa, of which one actually made it into the hands of a Bionicle collector. However, the prototype I'm showing today was never seen anywhere before I found it 2 years ago. With that background, let us go back to these Nui-Rama and take a closer look at the set itself. Of course, the first thing you'll notice is the color. Instead of sporting the released orange and lime color scheme, these are red and yellow. Unfortunately, you cannot build these yourself, as both the tail pieces and the claws were never released in these colors. Other than that, the overall design is identical to the final set. It still has the same functionality with snapping wings, but the rubber band have withered away, so we are left with manually rotating the wings ourselves. This set hides more than meets the eye though, and I'd like to take a closer look at each part itself, because many of them are either prototypes or unreleased. Starting off with the tail pieces, this is part 32177, originally introduced with the Slide theme in 1999 and actually one of my favorite Technic parts. It would be nearly impossible to nail the look of a recolored Nui-Rama without these, and they are in near perfect condition. They attach in a way that makes them act as a sturdy handle when snapping the wings, just like the released set. Moving forward to the body, we find a lot of regular Slicer and Technic parts, but there's an interesting detail standing out on the red one here. You will notice that these Technic beams are simply cut clean off. It might seem weird at first, but we have to think like a LEGO designer to understand why. These straight beams were only starting to appear in sets in late 2000, while Bionicle was still in development. At the time of this set being designed, the 3-length beam simply wasn't available in red, so the designers just took an L-shaped beam and cut that in half. Interestingly enough, this damaged L-shaped beam here is actually a prototype one, but the story behind this part makes it more interesting than any prototype. The yellow one, on the other hand, has regular beams with production markings, so either they had this part in yellow already, or the yellow one was prototype a bit later. Before we get to the good stuff, we should take a look at the prototype arms. These would also have been used for the Taomata at the time. We can see several marks not present on the final piece. On the front it's missing the copyright sign and mold number. On the back there are some different circle markings on the elbow and inside the ridges, as well as a different axle holder. If we look a bit closer at the bottom here, we can also see some stress damage, which is consistent between both the prototype dark grey arms. Now you might think this is a bit of a bummer, but this is actually just part of the prototyping process. The dark grey arms were an early test where the mold itself damaged the part when you took it out of the mold, which signifies that the mold is not yet ready for production. It was then adjusted shortly after, as the black ones do not show the same damage, but were prototyped around the same time. This is not stress marks from usage, it's stress marks from development. If you would only go by the shape though, it would be hard to tell this apart from the final production version, and it might be confused with a knockoff part if you're not careful. Now it's time for the good stuff, the QnA masks. This set uses the QnA masks as eyes, one on each side of the body. The masks used are a pair of Prototype Ruru in trans dark blue. These are fairly well-known prototype variations within the Bionicle community already, because as you can see, the QnA code is on the front of the mask instead of the inside. The mask overall is also a bit rougher as the mold hasn't been polished yet. Taking off the QnA, we reveal something really interesting. The eyes of the yellow one have been drawn on with a marker. At first, it might seem disappointing that some kid has defiled a prototype set, but that is not the case here, and I will explain why this sabotage is actually amazing. What we are seeing here is once again the development process at work. The reason they are colored black can be seen in the final released set, where these heads were black. This context gives this act of sabotage a fascinating little backstory. The designers likely realized that light grey headpieces did not look fantastic and they wanted to try some other colors, but they didn't have any black ones prototyped yet. So, to quickly test out if black would look better, they simply drew on the headpieces with a marker to recolor the pieces black really quickly. It turned out better, so it made it into the final set. Isn't that fascinating, huh? Anyway, the heads behind them are light grey, like the Toamata. These are 100% prototypes without hesitation. We can see that the mold is very rough if we just turn it around a little bit. The headpieces have no marks on the back either. Moving on, let's take a look at the mouth, starting with the red one. At the time this set was designed, the Bionicle Clawhook, part 32551, was not released in red yet. A closer inspection reveals that it is not simply a red variant of the clawhook, it is a prototype. And we can see that here. You can see that it was initially planned for this actuation mechanism to go through the entire hollow section here. There is also a small reinforcement near the base on the released part that is not on the prototype. Here it is compared to the production mold. Other than that, it is pretty much identical to the released part. The yellow mouth is instead made up of a yellow Bionicle claw, so we might as well move on to the claws right away. Any fans of classic Bionicle will of course love this part, and both Nui-Ramas use these as their hands. It is similar to the released part again, however it is very unpolished mold with some key differences. By studying them a bit closer we can actually arrange a timeline of what was created first and what was created last. So let's do that now and I will take a look at each one, starting from the oldest one. These red claws also have an interesting story, because we can see that they are damaged in several places. Behind the middle claw, on the front of the claw, and on the underside of the claw. That is a shame, right? Let us check the other claw to see how it should look. Wait a minute, this is damaged too, huh? And in the exact same places. That means the damage was consistent. It was not a random event or accident. This, just like the arms, has to do with the mold not being finished yet. At this stage, you simply couldn't take this claw out of the mold without damaging it. Red was also often used in prototyping because it does show damage easily. So with that in mind, these red claws were likely some of the first prototypes of this piece to ever be produced. Another detail of this prototype claw is that the middle finger is actually slightly higher up than the rest, which is not on the final part. It is unclear if the mold was purposefully made like this or if this is a result of the damage. So let's compare it to the yellow claw which comes next. Here we see that the yellow claw does not have this damage. So the yellow claw was produced later when they had fixed the mold. The yellow claw also removes the height difference we saw on the red fingers, so now all the fingers are aligned. Next up we have this lime claw. This is also a prototype and the mold is identical to the yellow one, but we know that the lime and orange color scheme came after the red and yellow. I have more proof of this later, which should also explain why I have a lime prototype claw. The next step is the biggest. Here we leave the prototype stage and enter production with the orange claw. As expected, the round knuckle is now flat. However, this particular claw is missing one thing. It has no mold number. I have bought other orange claws to compare with, but I couldn't find any without these. So it is possible these orange claws are not the final version, but not necessarily prototypes. They do still have the Lego mark and copyright mark. The material also changes, which is not obvious to the camera. The prototype claws are very rigid like regular Lego parts. The orange claw on the other hand uses a soft, malleable plastic that is the same as the one that went into production. Considering how fragile these prototypes feel, this material change was probably for the best. Finally, we have a claw that is 100% from production. This was still found in the same box as the Nui-Rama prototype, but they have mold numbers, a Lego logo, they have everything, so they are from the factory. You can also compare to this black claw from my childhood Onua, which has seen better days. What I love about these claws is that you can trace a lineage from the original prototype mold to the final used in sets, and identify at each stage which decisions they made to improve to the final part that you played with as a kid. The parts themselves tell the story if you just know where to look. Whew, that was an extremely in-depth look at the secrets of this prototype set, but we are not finished just yet. There is one more surprise. You might have wondered why I had a lime prototype claw, right? And here is the answer. The box actually contained prototypes for the Nui-Kopen as well, an alternate build for combining the two Nui-Rama together into one creature. One of these was complete and two were incomplete. If we study them a bit closer, we will see however that the only prototypes are the masks and the claws. And this is what proves that the orange and lime ones were made much later than the red and yellow ones. Why there were several prototypes of one set was a mystery to me for a while, because several other prototypes in the box also followed this same pattern. Luckily, this tiny sticker here gave me a hint that made it all come together. These were used as references for creating instructions. Yeah, instructions! If we check out the instruction manual, we can see that each of these builds I have here, each represent one step in the instruction manual. The exact number here does not seem to match the final one in the instructions though, so I guess it's changed a bit from then. The other ones must also have had a number sticker at some point, but I unfortunately don't know if I even have those stickers or they fell off in transit or something. There will be a lot more later though when it comes to instructions. What we can derive from this is that the common model must have been made after the set was nearly finalized with the final colors, and it was a late idea in production. And there you have it, a development snapshot of the Nui-Rama, Nui-Kopen and the Bionicle claw pieces all in one single story. I am however missing the designer's input on this set. I have no idea who designed this set and they would probably have interesting insights on it. I still have several questions about these. Why would the colors change at all to something as rare as orange and lime? Were they considering selling multiple color schemes? And what other Rahi switched colors over time? Because we can see that Moaka and QnA actually ended up with the red and yellow color scheme. One source that actually answered some of these questions indirectly is Christian Faber, often credited as the creator of the Bionicle universe. In one of his recent videos, he's showing behind the scenes development footage of Bionicle from June 2000. And pause. Look at that! A red and yellow Nui-Rama. That's these, right? Actually, not entirely. If you look closely and paid close attention to earlier in the video, you will notice that the red one has black arms in the video and the Technic beams are not snapped off. Two differences that would actually place the version I have even earlier than when this was captured. That probably means that these two are another copy of the set, which means that there might be more of these out there somewhere. But I will leave those for someone else. I've got mine. Hey, I hope you liked the video. If you want to see me talk more about LEGO prototypes or LEGO history in excruciating detail, you know exactly what to do. please comment below with your feedback on how I can improve this format, or if you have any questions. I'll see you next time with another unique LEGO item or story.